Hello and welcome everyone to the Tech Sharmit Podcast. Today I am here with another special guest, Mr. Joe Winchester. Joe is known for leading the way in open source projects and innovating new developments in mainframe community. If I talk about more about him, then he has with more than 15 years of dedication, Joe has been instrumental in bridging the gap between traditional mainframe and then the open source world. As an IBM senior technical staff member and an open mainframe ambassador, Joe's work stands as a testament to the adaptability and collaborative spirit of the mainframe community. His journey is not only inspiring but also a testament to the endless possibilities when different worlds come together. So now we are going to initiate the discussion with him. But just before that, I'd like to thank Joe for joining us today in this episode. And now I request you to please initiate the discussion by telling us something about yourself.
Goodness, thank you so much. Thank you for that introduction. I'm blushing here. You said such wonderful things. Yeah, as you said, I have about 15 years in the mainframe space or the IBM Z ecosystem. But my IT career is probably about 35 years. So I have had a lot of experience outside that world as well, in the world of Windows and the world of Linux, GUI, graphical user interfaces, developing integrated development environments. So I like the fact that you called out sort of diversity. So even though I am a mainframer, I like to always think of myself as an outsider or somebody who's lived outside that community as well. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm English, by the way, if you can't tell from my accent. I live and work in England. Yes.
All right. So now, we would love to hear more about your journey. So can you tell us more about your journey? Like what inspired you to bridge the gap between the traditional mainframe ecosystem and the open source community?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So as I sort of mentioned just now, my background is that I'm not, I'm sort of an alien to the mainframe world, even though I've been in it for around 12 to 15 years. Before then, when IBM hired me back in the sort of 1998, it's a long time ago now, the last millennium, IBM was pivoting towards integrated development environment, an IDE platform that became known as Eclipse, the Eclipse framework. And it was a very, very successful, still is successful. And that was based upon Java. And Java was really one of, I suppose, one of the first open source languages pioneered by Sun Microsystems. It's now part of Oracle. IBM was very much involved in that space. And the Eclipse framework, initially when I worked on it within IBM, wasn't open source. But then the IBM executives took a very bold move to open source it. That was a risk, but it came with a lot of reward. So, and I also was very fortunate to work with Sun Microsystems as well around what the Java Bean specification. So I saw from the inside, joining what I think was perhaps a sort of seeing the transition that IBM was doing to open source and just seeing the benefit. So I lived that world and I saw how much customers appreciated it and how vendors created ecosystems. And it's always, ever since then, I thought, this is what I want to do. Open source is my North Star.
Okay. Okay. So, so far from your experience, who are some of the individuals within the mainframe community that have had a significant impact on you, and how have they influenced your work?
Goodness, that's an excellent question. Most of the individuals in the mainframe community are probably IBMers who just silently do their work, get their work done. Many of whom have retired now. So I perhaps won't call them out. They're just people who, when I used to be able to knock on their door, they would help me, they would spend time to mentor me, and they would empathize with my my viewpoint, which was, and they wouldn't belittle me or they wouldn't ridicule me for not learning their world. They would sort of come into my space. The individuals now, the goodness, there's somebody that I spend quite a lot of time with at conferences. He's in the mainframe ecosystem. He's called Stephen Perver. He works for Insono, but he's done amazing things, just trailblazing, creating this community on Discord that's bringing together lots of new and experienced mainframers, and it's a real melting pot of ideas. There's a program called the IBM Champions Program.
Yes.
Everybody who works on that, I have a huge amount of time for. But Shari Chirai is one of the IBM Z people around that, and I always have a huge amount of time for her and admire everything that she did. Within the UK, there's an individual called Mark Wilson. He's very successful in mainframe security, and he's kind of managed to get me involved in community, creating conferences, and through that I get connected to sort of academics and students. The list would go on. We would spend the whole 35 minutes, but I take inspiration from everybody, and it doesn't have to be a mainframe rock star. It can just be it can just be the smallest, quietest person in the community. I'll learn from anybody. I always, you know.
All right. Okay. And like if I talk about success stories, like we have heard many things about you through your social media platform and across the community. But here I would like to hear more about the challenges. So what are some of the key challenges you see, like in if I talk about the let's touch base the question again related to the open source technologies. So what are some of the key challenges you see in bridging the gap between traditional mainframe system and modern open source technologies?
Excellent question. I think the first gap is the availability of people being able to practice on a mainframe. So by analogy, I'm looking around my living room right now. I have about 3 or 4 Raspberry Pi computers because I'm a geek, and they're very cheap, very, very small, lightweight Linux platform hardware that you can get to experiment with. When I was much younger, I had a computer when I was aged 14, bought for me by my grandfather. It was a home PC, and that's really what taught me programming, you know, and gaming and things like that. Very, very accessible. I think the biggest challenge right now is people who are new to the mainframe is getting access to a mainframe, because they're very large, expensive machines owned by banks. There are solutions. There are lots of education programs out there, and there's one called IBM Z Explore, and I always encourage people to join that platform. And I think that, and the other big gap, I think, is that if you have learnt non-mainframe at university or at home or something, when you first see the mainframe, it doesn't use what's called the UTF-8 code page. It has a sort of historic 16-bit code page, sometimes called EBCDIC. That always knocks people over. They get and most of the workload on the mainframe is written in languages like COBOL, and you have to orchestrate that using something called JCL. That's moving towards more modern things like Java and Python, but most people working for large companies have to learn COBOL and learn JCL, and that can be quite jarring.
Okay. Okay. And like, how do you envision making the mainframe more accessible and intuitive for the new generation of developers?
Excellent question. For the new generation of developers, so I work very closely with the Open Mainframe project, and I work on a project called Zowe. I've been there since its inception, and one of the things that we like to say is we want to make the mainframe open, simple, and familiar. And the F for familiar, I think it's really that everybody likes to say, oh, that's just like something. So most people learn programming technologies through an IDE, perhaps like Visual Studio Code or IntelliJ or something like that. They're very modern, they're very, very good. They're very extensible. And one of the things we're trying to do is make it so you can just get Visual Studio Code or IntelliJ, point it at your mainframe, and you can have that same experience with drag and drop and editing files and syntax highlighting, rather than having to learn 3270 emulation. That's really a technology that sort of came out of the 1980s. I think that's probably the most important one. And also, if you're used to just typing simple commands and getting nice help text back, Zowe has some really nice technology called the Zowe command line interface.
Okay. Okay. And like usually, sometimes we hear that this mainframe technology is about to dead. I would say this is a myth. So how do you see the role of mainframe technology evolving in the next decade?
Yeah, it's funny that the mainframe you said. I tend not to I tend not to take sides in mainframe technology. I always think I always tell people at work, you know, IBM is in the game of business, international business machines, and everybody's job is to provide value to their employer. So I don't particularly like mainframers who say, oh, you know, the mainframe, I don't want it to become a cult, but it is a very, every time anybody sees a movie, they always say, oh, I've hacked the mainframe, I've gone into the mainframe, because it has, Hollywood tends to get it right in the idea that you have this nucleus or this core of transactional computing, and especially in the world of finance, you know, doing credit cards and mortgage payments and insurance, government institutions keeping what sometimes is called the system of record. Um, Mainframes play a phenomenal role. The hardware is excellently engineered. It practically never breaks unintentionally. I think the uptime is 99.99995 nines after the decimal place. I think now there may be 6 nines. It might be 3 seconds every few years. It may go down. It's so resilient, the hardware, that if that's what your business needs, so your business doesn't need any downtime, and you need to count money or count things with absolute reliability and absolute safety, that those records, those healthcare records won't be leaked. The mainframe has just been doing that for such a long time. It excels.
Okay, okay. So now I would like to put up a question on the behalf of those audience, like
Sure.
who have recently initiated their career with this mainframe technology. So,
Mhm.
what piece of advice would you like to give those member, and what all others technologies are there on which they can work along with a mainframe? Let's say if someone is working for a mainframe technology, so what all other technology they can learn so that they can collaborate the technologies and build up something new.
Excellent question. Thank you for asking that. So the first thing I would encourage everybody to do is train and skill up. Go to LinkedIn, create a LinkedIn profile for yourself. Be very professional about everything you do in LinkedIn. Please, just as an individual, when you're young in your career, sometimes it's easy to get drawn into arguments on social media. Please don't. Um, Bring your best to work every day. Interskill are a phenomenal. They provide lots of badges through Credly. I see people really propelling their career, getting lots of Credly certification in different technologies. IBM Z Explore is an excellent way that you can get access to mainframes. You do classes, and after you complete one, you unlock the next module, and you will get noticed. Employers will notice you when you do well. Um, the Open Mainframe project provides mentorships. So if people are at university, perhaps it doesn't matter where you are in the globe. These are sort of paid for things. You have to apply for them. You will learn. You will get lots of credits, lots of GitHub. Um, your user ID will start to be noticed. Lots of employers look for all of that. The technology that I would focus on Python. I think Python is an excellent technology, and it's just worldwide um, pervasive. Python is excellent, and there's some very good technologies with Python. And COBOL, if you want to be hired by a bank, learn COBOL. And there's nothing wrong with COBOL. It's very good at what it does.
Yeah, so these are some good advice. I think now it is pretty much clear to all those who have recently initiated their career with mainframe. So yeah, these are some good tips, like you can make your network with LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and there are many experts who can provide knowledge, and they can even guide you whenever it is needed. So yeah, these are some good advice. So now I would like to talk about some things related to the conferences that you have attended. So like you have shared your experience at various conferences showcasing projects like Zowe. So could you elaborate on how these projects streamline mainframe uses?
Yeah, thanks, Amit. That's an excellent question. So I do enjoy going to conferences or presenting virtually. Zoe is very successful at projects. The thing that I find the last conference I was at was in by a mainframe community called Share, that's been around for a huge amount of time, lots of customers and vendors there. And the talk that I was most proud for presenting at that, it was talked about, there's a technology called Zowe Explorer, which is basically meaning that you just switch on Visual Studio Code, point it at a mainframe, and it feels intuitive. And the title of the talk was Learn How Zowe Explorer Empowers New and Experienced Mainframers. And we had some very experienced people in the room, some of whom are 10 or 15 years older than myself. I'm 57 years old. So there were some people who literally, love this technology so much they went retire. Initially, one of the mistakes that we made with Zowe was we said it would just be just for the new generation. But to be successful, it's a bit like a very successful musician. I just pick on, I don't know, perhaps, I don't know, somebody like Madonna. I grew up with Madonna in the 1980s, or, Elton John, or all of these wonderful musicians out there, or even Bruce Springsteen or somebody like that. Even Dolly Parton, recently, she's just become inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Is that you have to keep adapting and growing. You have to bring along a new generation, who, to enjoy your music, as well as the people who grew up with you. That's what makes you a rock star, and that's what makes you basically successful. So that's what we're trying to do with conferences, is trying to bring in newer and older audiences and blend them and get some discussion going now.
Okay, okay. And could you share with us your standout memory from 2019 Share Louis conference? So, and its significance to you, that
That's
conference.
in 2019. I'm glad you picked that one. That was when the Zowe project was first launched, first announced. I've been working on it for a number of years within IBM and kind of behind closed doors with a company called Computer Associates, very big player in the mainframe space. They're now owned by Broadcom. So if you see Broadcom, that's the kind of a sort of modern day CA and Rocket Software. And when Zowe was announced, it was also done with the Open Mainframe project, part of the Linux Foundation. And I walked into the back of the room and I saw the announcement, and there was this huge, great big thing on stage with all of the executives. And I just remember feeling slightly frightened because I thought, oh my goodness, we've hit the big time. But also very excited. And I remember when we gave a keynote speech, we had 135 people in the room, and none of our demos worked. It was very, very new. The paint was barely dry. It mostly crashed. The microphone didn't work. It was a very poor presentation. But I remember afterwards reading all of the feedback that people gave, and they said, we're really excited about this. We forgive you for giving a bad presentation and not being well rehearsed enough, but this is what we've been looking for and waiting for. Thank you. So I just remember thinking, this is a community effort. It's not all about me succeeding. It's about everybody in the room succeeding. And that's my standout memory, was this welcoming community.
Yeah, it's very important to collaborate with others, because individually you can do your effort, but you need somewhere need the support of community as well, because it's something that we can achieve together. So yeah,
Definitely. There's a really good quote called, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And
completely agree.
definitely, sometimes you need to slow down and focus on, the event horizon being many, many years, and bring a group of people with you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, again, I would like to ask another question for those person. Let's say if someone is not so much aware of this mainframe technology, and then they have decided to start learning this mainframe or to make their career in this particular field. So, what are initial step you would like to suggest to those person, and especially for learning, what are other available resources are there that they can go through and in order to learn about the mainframe? And similarly, like if they want some portal where they can practice these things, any particular server they can utilize in order to learn and implement some practice for the mainframe thing.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So the IBM, it's called IBM Z Explore, or Z. I say Z a lot now. Z is the American way to pronounce the last letter of the alphabet. I prefer it because it sort of rhymes. when you have young children and you teach them the alphabet, or IBM Z Explore, and just Google for that. And that's a self-learning platform. And as soon as you register, you're given a user ID and a password, and you can literally just connect, install the software, and you have guided tutorials. And as you complete level 1, if you complete level 1, then it unlocks level 2, which is more advanced, but it gives you a bit more capabilities with your user ID. You can start to learn more advanced things. And then ultimately you can go into level 3, which is almost like a sort of university computer science degree sort of semester, because you're actually, you have to then build things that you're not given everything on a plate. You have to think and innovate. So I would really encourage people to do that. You will get some badges at the end. Those badges will look excellent on your LinkedIn profile and on your resume. The other one as well, Discord has a very good community. You can just Google for it. Discord, it's called System Z Enthusiasts. Join that community, ask questions, because you'll find other ways that people can give you things to download and start playing around with, emulators and so forth. And again, reach out to some of the incredible educators out there. Like I mentioned Interscale beforehand, but if you can, Interscale has lots and lots of deals with academics, and if you're a student, they have very good ways for you to train through that. That would be my advice. And my other advice as well to anybody starting new is make sure you stand out. Make sure you have a name for yourself. So I hire people sometimes, and I look at people's resumes, or I help people within IBM who want promotion cases. And the first thing I will do is I will Google for that person. And I'm not interested in their social life at all. It's their business. But if I do want people to create projects in GitHub, just create little things, fork repositories, do something interesting. If you start using a project and you don't like how it works, don't just be a consumer, be a producer as well. Learn how to fork a project, even if you're just fixing a spelling mistake or creating something, and then contribute that back and join that community. And that's a really good way to propel just your career and your brand.
Yeah, I would say like project is something that is important for all kind of technology. That doesn't matter if you are learning mainframe, Python, or any other technology, because if you are doing project, you know how the things is working behind the scene, and especially like in order to like syntaxes is something that we can learn. We can learn by the time, right? But this projects would help us to understand the overall process, overall flow of this thing, the technology. So yeah, I think project is something that everyone should do, and they can showcase it through GitHub or any other portals like LinkedIn. They can showcase their skill across the social media, so that if someone is there with the same expertise, they can reach out, and they can even every student should reach out to that person for the mentorship. They can seek for the guidance, right? And then like if they are aware of that, yes, these are the people who are interested or who are making project, then maybe they can also provide some tips or some improvement areas also. So yeah, projects are
Exactly.
something good.
Yeah, and a lot of open source communities, if you go and look at their issues, because everything is in the public, they have flags on things called good first issue. So it's very easy to just join, pick up one of those. There's normally readmes on getting started where you can clone all the artifacts, and you can start to open source is not read only. It's not just the source code is published for you to look at. The source code is published for you to extend and contribute. And it's like in a restaurant. I have a dream one day of having a restaurant where people come and they don't just eat the food that's cooked for them, but they can go into the kitchen and actually end up spicing their own food and maybe baking something the way that they enjoy. I think the chefs and the diners should mix together, and that's my dream behind open source, is people who use it are part of the creative process.
Okay. Okay. And the thing you mentioned, Discord is also a platform where the people can like join, they can create their ID over the Discord, and they can communicate with the experts also, right? They can ask if there is any
Absolutely.
issues.
Discord is a very good one. I'll just give a big shout out to that because that's quite new. The Open Mainframe project uses Slack. There's lots of ways on Slack you can engage. with people. You might not get an immediate answer, but generally you'll get an answer, and you should. And the other thing I will always say it to people, and I will tell people off if they don't do it. You must be professional, right? This is not a way for you to yell or belittle people. You must always be professional about what you write. So think before you write, yeah, and always thank people, and just
Right.
bring your best side to any social media platform, because whatever you write or do lasts forever. That's a good thing because you can
Mhm.
build up your brand, but you can also destroy your brand as well.
Yes, like it's our responsibility if you are interacting with someone, so everything should be in a proper manner, in a professional manner. Otherwise, it may leave a bad impression on the other guy.
Exactly. Just use common sense. Yeah. Just use
Yes.
common sense. Yeah. And there's another phrase that somebody said to me recently is, but celebrate everybody's success. If somebody that you know has got a badge or done something good, just give them a little heart sign or a thumbs up or say well done or something. It doesn't hurt. And don't, a rising tide lifts all boats. When everybody does well, you will do well because the community will bring you with it. Yeah.
Yeah, even I also believe that there is nothing like a competitive mindset. You should always work with a motive that we are here to together to implement the things, and we are here to find the solution of different challenges. So we should not think that we are in a competition. We should always collaborate with each other and try to figure out something that is new and innovative.
Absolutely. There's a wonderful, I think it was Bruce Lee. There's a wonderful interview my son played me recently where he was asked some question, and he just said something like one race, the human race. And I just remember thinking, what a wonderful man. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
one of my other wonderful kind of legend icons. I mean, I know he was all about kung fu and everything, but yes, just what a wonderful man he was. Yeah. And you can see it in his movies and things. And the same is true with everybody else I respect. Once you get to know them better, you'll find that they're just very nice individuals, you know.
Okay. Okay, and again, now I would like to a bit about the project. So, is there any specific ongoing project on which you are working, and it is related to the mainframe community, or like people may come up, people may hear about that in upcoming days?
So I work, as well as working on Zowe, I work in projects within IBM as well
Mm-hmm.
that aren't necessarily part of Zowe. So one of the projects I'm working on at the moment is called Watson Code Assistant for Z, and that's really exciting. That's all about bringing AI and
Okay.
large language models to help people understand code written in a language and potentially be able to rewrite it or help people rewriting it to a different language. So currently it's focused on moving from COBOL to Java, but there are lots of many other things as well where we can bring along people and just help customers, have the best fit, because Java wasn't around. I think Java was created maybe in 1996. So there's lots of code written in the 1980s and 1990s that's perhaps better written in Java. So it's really nice to be able to bring AI into that world, bring artificial intelligence. Yeah.
Okay, and like here, I want to ask you one thing. Like, there are some people who believe that AI is about to steal the jobs, and this is a dangerous thing for the human. So, how do you, what are your thought on this thing, or I would say the myth?
It's an interesting, yeah, I was sort of chuckled there. Um, I mean, if you go back in time and study history, when people used to go into the fields, just with scythes and cut corn, and then machines came along, people were very anti the machines, and even things like weaving or shoemaking. The word saboteur comes from a French word sabot, which is a shoe. So saboteurs would wreck factories making shoes because people used to make shoes by hand. Technology always lifts humanity. Generally, it empowers humanity, with perhaps a few exceptions, like weapons of mass destruction or something terrible like that.
Yeah.
But the I think it's an opportunity. I think everybody who works in IT is creative. I think we're very fortunate that we can be paid good money by corporate employers to do something that's challenging and like, problem solving, like playing a game of chess or a game of cards against somebody. We're always thinking it's very cerebral. So I'm always glass half full. I always look at the opportunities. Um, I don't think it'll take jobs away from people. I think it will create lots and lots and lots of opportunities to basically just empower humans to do more interesting things, and for companies to become more efficient. Every time a technology comes along, people will always say, "Oh, this is it. It's doomsday. It's the end of the world," or everybody thought the blockchain would rule the world, or things like that. And everything ultimately settles into the space that it needs to. But AI has a lot of benefits for things like, just healthcare, just being able to give people more assistance that the choice that they're about to make is the right choice that they should make.
Yeah, even like everything comes with a pros and cons, but if you are using it wisely and with a good intentions, then every innovation is come up for a particular solution that will help you to achieve your goals in a less time as compared to other difficult scenarios. So yeah, everything has pros and cons, but if you are using it wisely, so it's good for humans.
Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, although like we have many things to discuss with you, but just because of the limitation of time, I would like to put up my last question, and it is like, how do you balance your role as a IBM senior technical staff member with your advocacy for open source projects like Zowe?
That's an excellent question. So goodness, how do I balance it with IBM? I always think, often I've always got too much to do in a particular day. I have lots of demands. The most important thing I always say, and it's just the people I mentor as well, is try and look at everything through the lens of the customer. So look at the lens of who your customer is. And working for IBM, that could be a customer spending, money doing a new project, or a customer migrating or something. Now, some of what they want to do will be, best served using open source technology, and some of what they want to do might be best served perhaps buying a product. What I tend to do as well, the thing that empowers me the most, is it's very easy at work to always do the things that are high value and fast. You just clear your inbox and you're constantly sprinting and running, and you can get out of breath. What I like to do is, if I get an email or a difficult question from people, and I realize that same question is occurring again and again and again, I will think, how can I stop people having to ask that question? I want to make it so that there's a really good blog post, or a really good video, or a really good tutorial, or a product is so intuitive and able to correct and repair itself that people can just point and shoot, and they don't have to think. There's a wonderful book called Don't Make Me Think. I don't think I quite answered that question. I got a little bit lost in my reply. But balancing the role, I always think that I like to spend time with people. I like to spend time with customers, and I like to spend time to people who work with me and around me, and just listen to them. And then perhaps one day a week or half a day a week, I will literally just clear my calendar and just do things such that in the future, those people won't need my time anymore, because I've created something for them to basically learn. So, so I like to put back into educational material and documentation.
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much, Joe, for joining us today and for sharing your expertise with us. I hope you also enjoyed this session.
Awesome. Thank you, Emma. It was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.